Hello friends, my name is Sarang. So today we'll look into the various functions that Golang offers. Okay, so we'll look into the basic functions, receiver functions, and anonymous functions. So under the basic function, we'll understand about init function, then function with parameters, functions with return value, function with multiple return value, function with naming return values, function with variadic parameters, public private functions, pass by value and pass by reference functions, defer keyword. And under receiver function, we'll look value-based receiver function, point-based receiver functions, and under anonymous function, we'll look function as a parameters, return function from function, stateful function, and the generic function. Okay, so this is a practical session, and this video is intended for the beginners. Okay, so let's get started. So what I'm gonna do is first I'm gonna create a main file. Okay, I'm gonna give the package name as main and create the main function. So the main function is a special type of function which gets called automatically by Golang. We don't have to call this main function explicitly. Okay, so the main function becomes the starting point of your program. Okay, so if you want to make the main as a starting point of your program, make sure this main function is under the package main. Okay, if you change the package name to, let's say, one something, the main function is no longer a function which will be called by Go. Okay, it behaves as a normal function only. So make sure you have the main function under the package main. Okay, so the very first function that we're going to look is the init function. So the init function is also a special function. Okay, it should have a name as init. Okay, so it is same as main function. The init function is not accepting any arguments and it is not returning anything. But the only difference between the main and init function is the init function will be called by Golang before the main function. Okay, so in this way, what you can do is you can initialize your global variables in the init function, okay, and then use those global variables in the main function. Okay, so I'm gonna create one global variable. Okay, I'm gonna initialize the global variable in the init function, and in the main function, what I'm gonna do is print the value of variable called name. Okay, so what you can do in a init function is if you want to initialize global variable and also establish a database connection before your function start, you can do in the init function. Okay, so I'm gonna print the value of name variable and it has given me sarang. Okay, and you can also have more than one init function in the same file. Okay, here what I'm gonna do is change the name variables to dev problems. Okay, so this init function will be executed after the first init function. So it will be executed in a order that you define the function. Okay, so now you can see the value would be dev problems in the console. Okay, so that's all about the init function. Now let's look at the second function, that is function with parameters. Okay, so for that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a basic function directory, and under that I'm gonna create a basic function go file. Okay, and I'll create a add function which have two parameters, a of type int, b of type int. Okay, and this add function will print the addition of two numbers. Okay, so make sure you have the func keyword so that Go will know that this is a function. Okay, and write the name of the function and then the round brackets. Inside that you can mention your or write your parameters that you're going to accept. Okay, and then in the body of the function you can write your logic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this add function from the main file. Okay, so for doing that I have to write the package name, that is basic function, and inside the package I have this method add. So I'm gonna call this with two arguments. Okay, And when I execute this file, it's gonna print the addition of two numbers, 1 and 2, which is 3. Okay, so one more thing here is since A and B are of same type, so you can also write like this. Okay, A comma B int. So this both A and B are of type int, so you can write in this way. Okay, so now let's look at the third function, which is function with return value. Okay, so I'll create a new function called subtract. Here I'm gonna take two parameters and return the subtraction of two numbers. Okay, since I have not defined the return type of this function, okay, so I have to write the return type after the round brackets like this. So now the function will work properly with no errors. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm accepting two parameters, returning the subtraction of these two numbers with the return keyword, and also mentioning what type of value will be returned from this subtract function. Okay, if you want to return anything from the function, you also have to mention the type of data that you're gonna return. Okay, so I'm gonna use this function here to call. Okay, I will pass 4 2. Okay, since it's gonna return me some data, so I will store that data in R variable, and now I'm gonna print the R variable to know that what subtract has written. Okay, the answer should be 2 here. Yeah, it's 2. So this is function with return values. Now let's look the function with multiple return value. Okay, so again I'll go to the basic function file. Now I'm gonna write one function called subscribe. Okay, so what do you mean by multiple return value? Here you have only written one data, okay, which is subtraction of two numbers, and you have mentioned that you're gonna return only one data with the type int, but you can also return more than one data from the function. Okay, so if you're returning more than one data, so you have to write that in a round brackets, and also write the types that you're gonna return. So I'm gonna return three string from this function. Okay, so you can return any type you want. Okay, so two string, one int, or you can write three in or float 32, anything you want to return from the function. For now, I'm going to return three string. So I'll write subscribe dev problems channel. Okay, so I have written the comma separated string, okay, from this function. So who is calling the function here will get three values from this function. Okay, so the signature, it accepts no argument, and but it will return uh, three strings. So I will take those strings in three variables in this way. Okay, now I'm gonna print the values of this in this way. Okay, now I'm gonna execute each variable here will get a string, and that I'm gonna print in the console. Okay, make sure you are returning three string from here. Here also should be three variables. If you are not interested in the number of or if you're not interested in the return of this function, what the caller can do is it can ignore the last string that is written by the function. Okay, and it can also ignore the second string that is written by the function. You can ignore by writing the underscore here. Okay, so hope this is clear. And now let's go to the next one, which is function with naming return value. So first let's understand why you need a naming return value. So here I will write function divide. I will accept two parameters, and I'm going to return the division result and return error if there is any error. And if b equal to 0, then we are not interested to divide. We will return 0 and also error, because we have to let the caller know that we cannot divide anything by 0. Okay, else what we can do is we can divide if the b is not 0, and we'll return no errors, because we can divide and we can give a value nil to the error type. Okay, so here the problem here is you are returning, or you're writing the return statement multiple times. So this is a small function. If the function is very big, okay, if the logic is very big, then you have to write return statement multiple times. So in order to avoid that, what you can do is you can give a name to your return value, okay, and initialize them within the function. So it will take the value that you will give them. Okay, so I'll write answer is equal to a slash b, and here, since I have given value to my return types, okay, I can return from the function. That means I want to stop executing the function. Okay, so here you're writing the return keyword only one time. So that's the advantage of naming the return value. Okay, name the return value, give them a value, and once you have given the right value, just write one time return keyword. Okay, so here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call the divide function with two parameters, okay, and take the result or error if there is any. Here what I'm gonna do is write a condition. If error has a value, that means it is not a null, then I'm gonna print the error message. Else what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna print the division result. Okay, and I will print it by formatting it correctly, answer. Okay, so now I'll get the answer because b is not 0, so I will not get errors. It will give me answer as 2 of type float. Okay, and then if I pass 0, then it should give me an error saying that cannot divide by 0. So hope you understood about this naming return value. It is very flexible and you can avoid writing multiple return statements. Okay, so now let's look into the function with variadic parameters. So if you have so many parameters, it's a good practice to uh, have the variadic parameters. Okay, so I will tell you why you need this. So let's say you have 10 parameters. So for each parameters you have to define a variable in the round brackets. So in order to avoid that, just write these three dots, and you can accept any number of parameters in the function. Okay, so I will pass that once I write the logic of it. So I'll write a total variable, and I'm gonna iterate the numbers. So here you might have a question that how come the number is iterable, right? So here I'm iterating the number. I have not defined that it is an array or slice. But here, when you write a three dot, this number becomes a float 32 slice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna print the type as well to show you. I will use reflect package dot type of number. So it will give me that the number is of type float 32 slice. That's why you're able to iterate it. Okay. So in the caller, what you can do is in the caller side, you can pass any number of parameters like this. Okay. So here you are avoiding writing so many variables or parameters. You're only writing one um, parameter, okay? And yeah, you will getting the result. So I will print the sum result, okay? So it is giving me an error, cannot use float attitude of type string. Just a second. Oh, I have already defined s, so let me define sum again here. Okay, so now I'm going to execute the function. It should give me the sum of these numbers. Okay, I have to format it, so let me do this way. Okay, sum. So it will give me the formatted result. Okay, so hope you understood about the variadic parameters. Now next is public and private function. So here in the basic function, all functions are public. Okay, all the function that you have written here all are public because the first character of the function name is capital. Okay, if the first letter is capital, that means these functions are public and it is visible to other packages. That's why from the main you were able to call the add function, subtract function, because they are all are public function. Okay, and if you want to make a private function, so just write the first letter as small case, in a smaller case. So this now add function is not visible to other packages, so it will give us the error saying unresolved reference add. Okay, so this is about the public and private function. Now let's look into the pass by value function. So the pass by value concept, you might be aware about that, that you are passing the copy of the, or you are creating a copy of that particular value. So let me write pass by value. So here you have one parameter and you're changing the value of it. Okay, so here the caller will not get the updated value that you have updated in this function, because it has passed a value here and it has created a copy of the value that you have passed, and it has updated, and the caller will not get the updated value. So I will demonstrate this. Let me write var a equal to, let's say, 5, and I will write pass by value as a, or and I'm gonna print the a result here. So the answer should be 5 because here you have done the pass by value, so the value will be passed. Okay, and that value, if you're updating it, it will not be reflected to the variable that you have defined here because you're passing the value, not the reference. Okay, let's look the reference next. So yeah, so let's run the function. Okay, I have not, okay, just a second. Where is 5? Should print 5 here. Divide result. Okay, this should be some result. And print ln. Why is it not printing the a? Oh, okay. So it has printed at the end because it's a printf. Okay, so I'll write fmt dot empty println, so it will print the 5 below. Okay, so this is pass by value. So now let's write a pass by reference function. So here you have to pass the address of the variable, because here this function is accepting a pointer. Now if you are passed the reference, then the updated value would be reflected. to the value that passed by the caller. Okay, here you have a pointer. That means you have to send the address of that variable. So let me do that first quickly. So a is equal to, let's say, let me use the same thing, basic function dot pass by reference. Now I have to pass the address. So I'll write ampersand a. Okay, now if I print the value of a here, it should be 10 because your the pointer is updating the value, and it will be reflected to the value that is given by the caller. So that's the pass by reference. Okay, and this is a dereference symbol. So if you want to update the value of any primitive types, you have to use this dereference symbol here. Okay, so now let's look at the differ keyword. So the differ keyword is a special type of keyword. So I will show you this differ function, something like this. And if you want to execute anything, hang on. So I will subscribe, write subscribers, and I will do a print hello all subscribers. Okay, so what will happen is this particular print function will be executed after the differ function is completed executing it. So this will be executed after the print function has been executing. Okay, so that means if you have a differ keyword and the function, then the particular function will be only executed when the entire function is completed. So this function print will be executed at the end. Okay, so I will show you the function. So differ. So first it will be hello all, then subscribers. So hello all subscribers. Okay, like this. And let's say if you have multiple, then it will be in a reverse order. So just give me a minute. Hello all subscribers. Okay, so first the differ function will be completed, will be registering two differs into a stack. Okay, and you know stack is last in first out. Okay, so the last differ function will be executing first, and then this function will be executed. Okay, so it will be like this. So once the differ function is completed executing it, so what this differ function is doing is printing hello, and after that it will execute this one, and then later on this one. So it behaves as a stack. Okay, so I'm gonna again start executing it. Hello all subscribers. So in this way you can use differ keyword. Okay, if you want to execute anything at the end of the function, and mostly you use this for closing the database connection and all these things in a real world application. Okay, so I think we have looked all the basic functions. Now let's look into the receiver functions. Okay, now let's look into the receiver functions. Okay, so I have created a new package, and here the receiver functions are specific to the struct. So before writing the receiver function, you have to create one struct. So here I'm creating a person struct, which is having two variables, name, age. Okay, now I'll create a receiver function which is specific to the person struct, and here I will update the name of the person. So I will get one name in the argument, and I will update the name of the uh, person here by using the set name function. So the receiver functions looks little different here. You have to give the function name. Before that you have to in the round bracket you have to mention for which struct you are creating this receiver function. Okay, so let me create an object or instance of this particular person struct. So receiver for person, and fm I'll read format and println person. here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the person object to set the name. Okay, I will get name as Sarang. Okay, so I'm setting the name as Sarang. So before before setting the name, okay, I have created an empty struct with no default values, okay, of name and age variable. I have created an empty struct here, and then I'm updating the struct field name with the name called Sarang, and here the person that I've created here should have the name as Sarang. So let's look whether that name has been updated or not using the receiver function called setName. So here the name has not been updated. So let me do println. Okay, so here we'll execute the function. Okay, so it is giving me again the empty struct with the default value of age as 0. Okay, it should have set the name to the provided name, but it has not. Okay, so let's look why it has not updated the name to the name that we have given in the parameters. So if you look this receiver function, this is a value based receiver function. That means when you are calling the set name using the object person, okay, in this receiver function, you are not passing the actual person address into the receiver function. Your function will create the copy of function, and that copy will have the uh, person name as the one that you have updated. Okay, so if you want, let's say I will print the address of person object. So I will just write p here and write ampersand to print the address. Okay, in receiver function I'll write in a receiver function. Okay, I'll print the address, and here also I will print the address to show you that what actually is getting passed. Okay, so here I will write person. I'm printing the address of this person object, and also printing the address of this particular person object. So what will happen is the address of both the objects will be different. So this object will be a copy of the one that you have mentioned here, and that will have a different address. That's why it is not updating the actual person object, it is updating the copy object. Okay, so if you want, I can show you the address. That's gonna be a different one. See the object, the address is different, and in the receiver function, the address is different. So if you want to update any of the a variable of a particular struct, you have to pass a pointer based, you have to do a pointer based receiver function. Okay, so here I will try to update the age. So I'll pass age here of type int age here. Okay, so now I'm gonna update the age of point using a pointer based receiver function. So that will be reflected in the actual object. So yeah, you can see 20. That one only it has given, which I passed here. Okay, now if you look at the address of both the object, it is same. So I don't have to write ampersand because it's a pointer. I will execute it again. Here you see the address is same. That's why I'm able to see the changes in this particular person object. Okay, here it is not creating a copy. In this case it was creating a copy because it was a value based receiver function. Here it is a pointer base. That's the reason it is not creating a copy. It is it is receiving the actual object and updating that object. Okay, hope you understood about the receiver function, and let's look into the anonymous function later. Okay, so let's look into the anonymous function. So let me create a anonymous function first. So it is a function with no name. So here I'm going to just write a func keyword and with no argument. You can also pass the argument if you want. So I will just pass, let's say, name string. Okay, and I'm gonna print the name that was provided, and here I'm gonna directly call the function. Okay, so here you can see I've not given any name to the function, whereas if you can see the basic function here, I've given the name to the function, and using the same name I am calling the function. Okay, but here I'm not given any name. I've just written the logic when this function will be executed. So here, since this function accept argument, so I have provided an argument like this, and this function will be invoked automatically. So let me show you. So it has printed the name Sarang because I have provided that. Or else what you can do is, if you want to use this function later on, okay, so you can give this function to this variable, and this variable can be treated as a function here. So you're passing the function as a value here to this func variable, and this fun variable will be used as a function here. Okay, and likewise you can call this function. Okay, so now let's look into the function list, and let's start implementing the function as parameters. So if you want to accept the function as a parameter, so how you can do that? I will create a function calculate which will accept two parameters of type int, and then a function which will have two int type, and then this function will return a int data. So here you're not implementing, you're just defining the signature, or just writing the signature that you want the calculate function to have two int parameters and one parameter of type function which will have two arguments and return the data of type int. So here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass the AB data. See, since C is a function, right? So you can write like this, and then when you write like this, the function that you provide in the parameter will be executed, and it will give us one int data in return. So I'm directly printing it. So if you don't want to print like this, first let's get the data and then print it like this. Okay, so what will happen on the caller side is I will quickly write anonymous function calculate. I will write 1 2, and here using the anonymous function, so I'll write one anonymous function which will not have any name. Okay, so here it will have, let's say, a int, a b int, and it will return me int. So what will happen is, just a second, I will write the logic first. Okay, then what I've done here is I have passed a as a one value, b as a two value, and then I have implemented an anonymous function which is of same signature that I have here, to int as a parameter and return as a int. Okay, so here also it is having two parameters and returning a data of type int. Okay, and here you're writing a logic of the function. When this function will be executed, it will return the sum of these two numbers. Okay, and here you're passing this anonymous function to this C variable, and then you are calling this particular function with these two variables here. Okay, and then getting the result and printing the result. Okay, so let's see. The result should be 3. So this is how you can pass the function as a parameters to another function. So this particular function is handy and it's an anonymous function. So to make it more easier, what you can do is you can implement this function and then pass it to one of the variable, and here you can directly pass the variable like this. Okay, and then you can call the calculate function. Okay, so this is function as a parameter. So now let's look into the other function anonymous, which is return function from function. So if you want to return a function from a function, then what you have to do is you have to write a function name, and then just after the round bracket just mention what type of function you're going to return out of this. So I'm going to return a function which takes a string as an argument and gonna return the string. Okay, since you have written that you are returning this type of function, you have to use the anonymous function directly, which will have first argument as a string and returning one string. Okay, so I'll just pass what I'm passing in the argument. Okay, got it? So this is your anonymous function. Okay, which is having the same signature as what you're gonna return it. So this is how you can pass the function from another function. So here what I'm gonna do is I'll write anonymous function dot get function. Okay, so I will get the function out of this particular method called get function, and I'm gonna call the function that I've got with one string dev problems. Okay, and this function which I've got it from this get function will return me again a string. So I'll write str and print the value. So I'll execute. It should give me the value as a dev problems. Yeah. So it is little tricky here. What you're doing is you're returning a function. Okay. Specified that what type of function you'll return. Okay. In the same way, you're using the anonymous function signature and returning the implementation of it. And then you are receiving that implementation into a function variable and calling that function implementation by passing a string, and then you are printing the string or getting the result out of it and printing it out. So it is little tricky, but you can get this well after doing a practice. And there is another function called stateful function. This function is little interesting, so let's go and implement this. So you will maintain a state inside a function which is gonna change every time if you are making a change into it. So let's see how it is. So here you will again return a function which will have no argument, but it will return us a int64 value out of it. Okay, so here I will initialize one a variable. Okay, and now I will write the logic of function that I'm going to return out of this function. So what I'm doing is I am incrementing the a value and returning the power of the int, the a value that I have. So I'm doing 2 raised to whatever the value that I get. So what I'm doing here is I'm returning a function of this type. Okay, but inside this function I have a variable a which will be incremented by 1 every time when I call this particular function. Okay, so now I'm gonna invoke the stateful function. I will write the anonymous package dot stateful function. So this function will give me one stateful function. Okay, so I'm saving into a SF variable. So I'm gonna call the stateful function with no arguments, as this function is accepting no argument, but it will give us the sorry, this function. It will not accept the argument, but it will give us the data of type int64. Okay, so the result I'll show you why it is stateful function. So first let me create a variable, okay, and I will get the in64 data in this res variable, okay. So I'm gonna invoke the cell stateful function 3 times, and every time the result will be different because it's a stateful function. And why, I will show you. I'll just show you the result first. So it is 149. Okay, why it is 149? Because in the function you are incrementing the a every time when this function is invoked. Okay, so the first time you invoke, it's going to be 1. Okay, 0 plus 1 is 1, and then 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 2 plus 1 is 3. So every time you are invoking, the a will be incrementing, and you will get the result different every time. Okay, so this is how you can maintain the state inside a function. Whenever it get invoked, it will give us the different results. Okay, so now let's look into the generic function. So I have created generic function here. So first I will show you this is a non-generic function, and this is also a non-generic function. Okay, why it is non-generic? Because here it has a map of type key as a string and value as a int64. Here it's a map of key string and float 64. So here you can only pass the specified map when you're calling the sum ints. Okay, here also this function you will call by passing the specific map type. Okay, but this is a generic function which will accept key which is of type comparable. Okay, and v which is a value of type, it can be either int64 or float 64. So here this is how you'll write the generic function. Okay, so this function can accept both ints and floats. Okay, that's why it is a generic function. Okay, so here you have to mention the key will be of type comparable. So string is already a type of comparable, so you have written this key can be of type comparable, and the v can be either int64, float 64, or you can again write one more, it can be of type string, anything. Okay, so this is a generic function. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invoke this particular sum or int function from here, main file, generic function, sum ints or float. Okay, here I have to provide a map. So I'll quickly create a map here, map of let's say type string and int. Okay, I'm gonna write a string as first, uh, let's say 12, second as let's say 14. Okay, so I'll pass the map here. Okay, it will give me a result, a sum of all the values. So it should give me like 12 plus 14, 26 in a result. Okay, so I'll quickly do println and print the result here. So here it is complaining about cannot use int. Okay, so here it's of type int64. So make sure the value is also int64. Okay, so if I execute, it should give me the result 26 here. Okay, and if I pass to the same function, if I pass the value as let's say float, is it accepting float 32? No, it is accepting float 64. So I will change the value. Okay, I will make this as decimal, and the same function is accepting a different type, which is float 64 as well. So it has given the result accordingly. Okay, hope you have understood all the functions. So do check out the code from the Git and start exploring the all the function that I have explained. And thank you so much, and make sure to subscribe the channel.